So did you guys know that our typical search engines are only 4% of what we see on the web, which is like Google, Bing, Firefox? I'm going to be talking about some of the most popular websites on the dark web, so get ready because this is going to be intense. So here's a photo example just to give you guys an idea of what this looks like. At the top is the area that we do our research for school on, or stalk our exes, I don't know. And then 500 times larger than the surface web is the deep web. The deep web is filled with information that we cannot access, such as medical documents, iCloud, personal information. Like, I obviously can't Google what your family history or intake forms say, so that's where this is stored. And then the dark web holds the last 6%. This part of the internet was created by the US Navy in the 1990s, and it was made so spies could share info without being tracked. Well, then the government decided to release it to the public. And you need the specific software to go to it called Tor, which stands for the Onion Router. It hides your identity and gives you access to non-surface web pages. And on this section of the internet, you can do things like buy people's credit card information, get counterfeit money, participate in drug trafficking, hire hackers and hitmen, and way worse. Okay, so this is part 2 to my series on the dark web. So all of these websites are listed in very long, hard to remember codes that change very frequently to avoid law enforcement. And instead of using .com, .org, .net, you use .onion. Well, one of the biggest websites on here is called Silk Road. This website is responsible for 1.1 billion in transactions in 1 year. It is a massive drug market. You can buy things like counterfeit money on here, also Facebook accounts to hack into, fake passports, stolen credit cards, and I may or may not know a few people who have gotten their fake IDs from there. Honestly, not uncommon. Now, there's also hitman websites on here as well. For example, you have something called Assassination Market. And y'all, this is insane. On this website, a victim will be added to a list of targets. Users will bid Bitcoin on when they think this target is going to die. The most accurate bidder gets the whole pot of Bitcoin. The problem is that many of these users start to just participate themselves so that they can win. Like, they become the hitman, which is way cheaper than just hiring an actual hitman. But there are theories on who's actually responsible in controlling all of this. Welcome back to my series on the dark web. The big theory surrounding the hitman websites is that the government may still be in control of the dark web and be very aware of who is where, even though it appears that they're not. Because it was literally created by the government, how would you be safe from the government? And in actuality, the theory is that they may just be letting people do the dirty work for them. Like, they're the ones who might actually be putting hits on people. But we will probably never know. The dark web goes so much deeper than this because of websites like Human Products, which sells food, belts, wallets, and clothing made from, you guessed it, humans. So I don't know if anyone's in need of a nipple belt, but this is literally the kind of things that they sell. Of course, there's even darker stuff like red rooms, cannibalism, and human experimentation, but I'm actually going to go into detail on that on my Instagram because I know if I post it here, TikTok will take it down. So go over there, go to my middle tab where my reels are, and you guys can see the most intense part of the series, but there's a fat trigger warning on those videos, just FYI. But you will get to see me take off this makeup look. Okay, so who in the world would kill this beautiful Instagram influencer? Alexis Sharkey's death was just ruled as a homicide, and it has been on my brain all week. I'll be showing you guys how to do this look, so let's get into the case. So Alexis was extremely smart, very much an overachiever. She graduated top of her class at the University of Pittsburgh and had big dreams of going to med school. However, she wanted to travel in the meantime, so she decided to take a break. So she went to Texas to work at a Twin Peaks. She had no issues making friends, but recently went through a breakup. But one of the girls she worked with at Twin Peaks noticed a thing going on between her and a regular. This guy's name was Tom Sharkey. He was an oil field consultant and traveled a lot for his job, which was perfect because that's why she was taking a break from college. They began dating and she started to work for the hair company Monet, which a lot of you guys know to be a pyramid scheme. However, Miss Girl was so good at it. She was making $400,000 a year as an executive director and traveling and posting it everywhere. Because of this, her Instagram rose to 20,000 followers. She met a lot of new friends and eventually Tom proposed. Go to part 2 to see the rest of the look. Welcome back to the case of Alexis Sharkey. We're doing this makeup look, by the way. So Tom proposed to her and they moved to Colorado, and this is when she took up vlogging on YouTube. And they look absolutely precious. They seem like such a good couple. They seem like they're genuinely so happy in every single vlog, but the problem is you never really know what's truly going on based on social media. So her and Tom seem like the perfect couple. They get married, move to Houston together, and she joins Bumble BFF to make a new group of friends. She ends up finding a group that she meshes with really well and combining them with her Monet friends. Well, quarantine hits and she takes to TikTok. New way to promote yourself. Pretty much all of us went on TikTok after quarantine. So she was finally able to show more of her personality online, promote Monet, and she put Tom and her friends in it. You can still go look these up. And then her and one of her friends decide to go to Marfa, Texas, and then Tulum, Mexico. Keep this in mind. This is actually the last photo that she posted on her Instagram in Tulum. Anyways, by the time she got back, it was Thanksgiving, and she went to her friend Tanya's house for it. Without Tom, which is so strange for newlyweds. I forgot to mention that her friends would say that she would barely even bring up Tom, which is so sus, but go to part 3 for the events that unfold. Welcome to the next part of the case of Alexis Sharkey. We are finishing up this look, So it is obviously sus that Tom keeps changing his story. My eyes are headed, so I'm gonna have to go up on the crystals. But her friends are extremely worried. No answer on the group chat. They still hung out hoping that she would show up, but never showed up. But Tanya gets extremely worried and calls Alexis's mom Stacy. It turned out Tom already talked to Stacy, and this is how they knew everything was getting really, really bad. So they took to social media, started posting everywhere, justice for Lex. But sadly, her body ended up being found. She was on the side of the road, completely naked, only a few miles from where she lived. Let me just say, her mom and the rest of her friends were beyond broken over this news. It is really important to note, though, that there was no signs of trauma. And because she's so beautiful and active on social media, the internet went crazy. They were thinking possibly drugs are involved, maybe a smothering. But her friends and family knew that this was no accident. And that's when the friend that she went on the Marfa trip with stated that Tom and Alexis were actually going through a divorce, and Alexis said she was scared for her life. Go to the last part. Welcome back to part 3 of the case of Alexis Sharkey. We are doing this makeup look, and this is the part where everything happens. So she leaves her friend Tanya's house on Thanksgiving and lets Tanya know that she's going out to drink. She was picked up by a car, went out drinking until 3 a.m., and then texted Tanya on her way back to let her know she was coming back to pick up her car from her house. Well, the next day is Black Friday, which is a huge deal for people who run businesses, and she's obviously affiliated with Monet. And because she works from her phone, she's never off of it, like a story every other hour. All their friends wake up Black Friday, nothing. Nothing is on her social media. But that morning in the friend group chat, they get a text from her. She wanted to hang out and go out drinking, but none of them were free then, so they made plans for the next day. Well, the next day comes around, she doesn't show up, and no one's heard from her. So her husband Tom phones up John, one of her friend's boyfriends, and is like, hey, have you heard from Alexis? We got into a really bad fight last night, and I haven't seen her. She got into a black car, and I haven't seen her since. Sorry guys, here's the rhinestones. But his story kept changing. He would sometimes say she left in a black car, sometimes say she left on foot, would sometimes say that they had fought, would sometimes say that they didn't have a fight, that she had her phone, didn't have her phone, or that he was even following her around on Find Friends. Go to the next part. Here's the last part of the Alexis Sharkey case, and we're almost done with this look. And again, this is just what her friend said, we don't know for sure. But her friend was coming out with all this stuff about Tom sending Alexis nasty messages while they were on their vacation together. And that in Tulum, she met a man named Sebastian. And she was very, very interested in the Sebastian guy, and he was actually the friend that ended up picking her up the night they went out drinking, before she was found dead. Well, there's a lot of rumors about them already being together, potentially Tom already knowing, but we don't really know for sure right now. Well, the medical examiner's conclusion was that she was strangled. So now the entire internet is suspicious of Tom. He's changed his story. He also referred to her in past tense before they found her body, but he's gotten an extreme amount of death threats and has kind of stayed away from being interviewed. He only did one quick phone interview and didn't even finish it. I'm sure his mental health is just awful right now. Weird thing to add to this is that he's the next of kin, so he was supposed to claim the body, but he ghosted Alexis's mom and never did. The medical examiner ended up giving her mom the power though, so they do have the body back now. And while there's a lot of people still suspicious of Tom, people are not shy to question Sebastian or her new Bumble friends. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
In the early morning of March 13th, 1964, 28-year-old Kitty Genovese was stabbed outside the apartment building where she lived. 38 witnesses saw or heard the attack, and none of them called police or came to her aid. This murder prompted inquiries into what became known as the bystander effect, or also known as Genovese syndrome. Winston Mosley, who was 29 at the time, was arrested during a house burglary 6 days after the murder. In custody, he confessed to killing Genovese. He was found guilty and sentenced to death. Later on, his sentence was changed to life in prison. Mosley died in prison on March 28, 2016, at the age of 81, having served 52 years in prison. Kitty Genovese's murder is often taught in psychology classes and criminology classes. The murder became a staple of the U.S. psychology textbooks for the next 4 decades. However, researchers have since uncovered major inaccuracies in the New York Times article, and police interviews revealed that some witnesses had attempted to call the police.
Lizzie Borden. The Borden family were a once middle-class family that soon gained a lot of wealth through the casket business. Lizzie and her sister Emma hated their stepmother because they believed she was only in it for the money. On August 4th, 1892 seemed like a normal day but soon turned sour. Emma left to visit friends. Andrew the father, Abby the stepmother, ate breakfast made by their maid Bridget, and Lizzie slept in. Andrew left for town and Abby went to go make up the guest room. Bridget felt ill and went to sleep. Andrew soon returned to the sitting room. Later, Bridget heard Lizzie screaming that someone killed their father. He was found dead with 10 hatchet marks to the head. They soon found Abby upstairs face down with 17 strikes to the head. At first, Lizzie wasn't a suspect, but after contradicting herself a lot, she was taken to trial June 5th, 1893, but soon was acquitted after 90 minutes. The Legend of Resurrection Mary. Resurrection Mary is one of the most well-known ghosts in Chicago. She is seen out of Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois. She has been reported to be seen since 1930s. Men driving through Northeast along Archer Avenue and Willowbrook Ballroom have reported picking up a female hitchhiker in a white semi-formal dress with blonde hair and blue eyes. She's very quiet and will not answer questions in the back seat. She only speaks when the driver gets close to Resurrection Cemetery. The only time the woman will speak is when she is asked to be let out. But when the driver stops, she's nowhere to be found in the car. She disappears just like how she appears.